I'm really passionate about Shepherd Center and the work we do and the work that Shepherd Center does.
The Shepherd Center at Greenbrier Valley seeks to sustain mature adults to live independently by providing opportunities for lifelong learning, community service, caring relationships, and spiritual growth.
It's a great opportunity to receive in terms of gaining knowledge and information and instruction from our Adventures in Learning classes, which are in Lewisburg and in Raynell now. We have started giving classes in Raynell. But the biggest thing, of course, is the opportunity to give back as a volunteer.
Last summer my father passed away and my mother's alone. And I feel good when I can help older people here because I can't help my mother. And I feel a reciprocation back and forth because if I'm helping people here, maybe there's someone there that will help my mother. We've got volunteers here that do so many things to help people, the least of which is the transportation to get them places. Some of our people just need to see someone's eyes. They need a connection with somebody and just have a visitor or someone who brings them a lunch on Wednesday or takes them to the doctor appointment or something. They have a bit of communication with somebody, and some of our people have no family around whatsoever.
You can be a friendly visitor for those folks who just need a friendly face, somebody to come in and say hello, and an opportunity to visit. A lot of our folks just have what was taught to me in graduate school as a syndrome called skin hunger. You know, as we get older, our skin gets wrinkled and it's not very pretty. And sometimes people just don't reach out and touch that because it's not pretty. But to go into the homes and to sit down and talk to those folks, opportunity to be to help do chores for those folks. Do you ever think that you wouldn't be able sometime in your life just to change a light bulb?
We've got, even this past year, a woman who helped every other week going to an elderly woman's home to take her laundry home and do it for her. And in the process, there was a communication, there was a visiting, there was a friendship that was kindled from that. And it was out of a need of an older woman having difficulty getting her laundry done.
So they just want somebody to come in and somebody to hold their hand and somebody to talk with them, and occasionally somebody to pray with them. And we are a faith outreach program, so to pray with somebody it's a privilege and an honor to be asked to do that. So Shepherd Center is, in a nutshell, really for me, it's an opportunity to put my faith into action.
The volunteers get a satisfaction that's deep, and the receivers get a need filled, which is very deep. So it's just an awesome thing to see.
Fred and Scarlett Kellerman, I think most all of us in this area know Fred and Scarlett, but maybe not the impact that their work has on Greenbrier County.
One of the big things that we've tried to do is to raise the awareness in Greenbrier County of the working poor, people who live in poverty, people who are homeless. And I think for the last 7 years, we really have raised that awareness in Greenbrier County.
They'll tell you that their calling is a calling from God to do what they do, to feed and house the homeless, to help folks who need construction kind of things with their home. I can recall one of my friends here in Lewisburg had a car to give away, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to call Fred Kellerman. And I called Fred, and Fred said, isn't it ironic that a man just came by recently and said if he only had a car, he had a job, but he just couldn't get to it. He needed a car, and he needed transportation.
That has happened so many times now that it can't be by chance. There's nothing chancy about it at all. It's the fact that if you rely on God for help to do God's work, God provides. And God has provided just unbelievably well for Wellspring.
And now the man can get to work, So the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I think the Lord is certainly on the side of Fred and Scarlett Kellerman. They're just beautiful, beautiful people.
Jesus had no problem with going out and talking with anyone. I don't care who they were, how bad they were, how their lifestyle was. Jesus had absolutely no problem whatsoever. Those were the people he was looking for. And so, when we talk to people at Wellspring, we want them to know that Jesus is with them. Jesus is their brother, their advocate, their friend, their guide, the person who loves them, who is always with them, and that's where they can turn for help.
Jesus says that when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was in prison, you visited me. And when I was a stranger, you welcomed me. And just as you have done unto the least of these, you've done also unto me. And that is just, that's part of us. That's exactly the work of Wellspring. And we're so fortunate to be able to do that.
We are waiting, Lord. Waiting, waiting. We are waiting, Lord. Fill the mind till we find your will, your way. Now let us know your presence, Lord, Emmanuel.
I'm a native of West Virginia. I was born in Bluefield, and I enjoyed a wonderful, supportive family growing up. I wouldn't say that we were wealthy by any means, but we certainly enjoyed I enjoyed a privileged childhood. I had a wonderful experience growing up, particularly with sports. I was involved with sports early on in my life, and basketball, football, track, baseball, whatever was being played at the time. was where I was going to be. And I enjoyed sports clear through high school.
Well, I was born in Logan County on Garrett's Fork. I was raised in the home of my grandparents. I was born in that home, and I was born to a single mom. My mother left me there with my grandparents when I was 3 months old. And my mother came to visit me from time to time, and I knew she was my mother, of course, but my grandmother was my mother. I attended a two-room school, and you know how people always laugh about folks saying, I had to walk a mile to school. Well, I actually did have to walk a mile to school. I guess we lived more or less in poverty in many ways, but because we were self-sustaining, I'm not sure I knew that we were actually poor, because everyone in the whole community was pretty much the same.
I had good experiences. I won't say I was the best student in the world, because I definitely wasn't. I remember struggling so hard with Latin. Now, I took Latin because my father felt like Latin was what we should take. They had French and Spanish also, which in retrospect I'm not sure why I didn't take one of those, but no, it had to be Latin, and I really struggled with it. But I finally got through. The rest of the academics came pretty easy.
I was, I guess, just an average student. I really loved writing essays, and I was in an essay contest and actually got a medal from my school, an award, which I still have for writing essays. And as I recall, it was about a handicapped person who worked at a laundry, and was just very inspiring for me to see how he worked with his disability. And I think I probably thought of myself when I was growing up as sort of a wood nymph. That was my place to go. That was my place to be. And I think that's probably where I first met God. I don't really know if I knew that was God, but as I look back on my life, I felt that there was a spirit there, and I felt safety there, and so that was just a really good place to be.
After high school, left the Bluefield area and went to college at Virginia Tech. And I, again, can't say that I was the best student in college, because I like to enjoy life. I'm going to be dainty about that. I enjoyed myself in college, and didn't study as much as I should have, but I think I can well remember when I finally graduated. My father looked at me and he says, "You know, I did not think this day would ever come."
I was accepted at Morse Harvey College, but did not have the opportunity to do that. So I decided to go to the Charleston Beauty Academy, and I went there and graduated from there, and consequently after that was hired by Coiffures Americana. Anyway, I got to go to New York for training there, and that was just really a wonderful, eye-opening experience for me.
Just after graduating from college, or maybe in my junior year of college, I guess, I met my first wife. And she was 2 years behind me, and she was at Radford University. And of course, after I graduated, we got married a short time. Just a very short time after that. As a matter of fact, we got married about the time that I was getting called back into the service. And I was been in the reserves at the time, in the National Guard, and they activated our unit. and that's when the Berlin Wall was built. I was stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland when I was discharged. And I started looking around, applied several places, figured out pretty early on that I couldn't leave that particular area because we didn't have enough money to look around and go job hunting anywhere else. So there was a bank there that was looking to hire on new people, and I was hired with a bank called First and Citizens National Bank, and that began my banking career. I started off as a teller and was trained coming up through the ranks.
I worked at Stone & Thomas for several years, and it was the largest salon in West Virginia. There were like 25 stylists there. And that was when I met my husband, Bill. And he had a daughter named Julie, and Julie was only 3 years old when her mother died. And so when Bill and I married, I became a mother immediately. We had 2 boys, Billy, who was William Jr., and Daniel. And so we had 3 beautiful children.
And on Sunday morning, I drive over into D.C. and go to the Smithsonian. First of all, there are hardly any people there. But at a certain time on Sunday mornings, they had a little theater type thing, and it was for children only, and it lasted an hour. So we would put our 3 kids in that little theater, and it gave us an hour by ourselves. And we'd go get a cup of coffee and just spend an hour without the children because they were well taken care of, watching that little theater. And we did that, I don't know, for months and months.
I was involved in the PTA with my children at school. I was a homeroom mother. I was in the women's club, Beta Sigma Phi, social sorority. So it was just like a time of our children growing up and a lot of wonderful times with our children. Eventually, I found my way to a place called New Employment for Women, and it was for displaced housewives. I was still, I believe at that time, still going through the divorce because this was a divorce that took about a year. I started a program through the Charleston YWCA and through New Employment for Women, which was a community-style program that started in several different communities of educational programs for families. When I look back now at, my life and where I was when I moved to Charleston, it just seems so interesting to me and divine in many ways that where I worked, the job that I got with Life of Virginia, I was placed in a building right in between Christ Church United Methodist and Covenant House. And so there I was in a sandwich, so to speak, between 2 wonderful places that were doing wonderful things. And that was where the street people and the people who lived under the bridges and all those people who needed help would go there for meals. And so often I would be walking down the street, and it was really interesting because it was, I think, probably the beginning of my calling. I didn't know the people, and they didn't know me, but they would wave at me, and I would wave at them. And so I think that was when God was called. That was the beginning of God calling me.
After a period of time, my kids all graduated from high school. there in Bluefield and began their college careers. But that also has led me to one of the most painful things that's in my life is when my wife died. My first wife died, and very suddenly, and it was just wasn't anything normal about it. I had always thought of her as being just a rock. She was a good athlete, a very physical person, and very healthy. And this was just something that came out of the blue. She developed it was a gallstone that got lodged in a place that was just it was just deadly. And after a short time, she lapsed into a coma, and I think she was in the hospital 16 days and died. And at that point, I guess that had to be the low point in my life. Took a long time to recover from that. Had a pastor at that time. His name was Joe Geiger. He was a real close friend of ours. And he said, well, I know a young lady that I'm going to put you in contact with. And you're going to have to call her. And I had thought to myself that I'm going to have this one date with her. We'll get this over with. And then I can go back and tell Joe Geiger I had done this, I had fulfilled my obligation, and things would be okay. I had described myself as being short and stocky with a gray beard and graying hair, wearing glasses, and I kind of told her I'd have on a suit coat or whatever. And she said, well, I am petite, and I'll be wearing this black outfit and a bow tie and a white shirt. It's kind of a masculine outfit. And she says, and I've got a lot of wrinkles.
And so when I walked in, he was talking to the maitre d', and I just kind of stood there in the doorway and waited to see what was going to happen. And I thought he was going to go to the table, but he turned around and he saw me there.
And she's just beautiful, you know. And I think, this can't be. This can't be.
He just kind of looked at my face and looked all the way down at my red shoes and looked all the way back up. And he said, you must be Scarlett. And I said, you must be Fred.
When we left that evening, I do remember that I walked her back to our car, and I thought, yeah, I definitely want to see this woman again.
Well, anyway, I think that Joe knew what he was doing, or God directed him to do whatever. But anyway, it's been, I think, a match made in heaven. After Fred and I met and we started our life together, I, felt like God had a real purpose for my life. And when we got married, we were married at Christ Church United Methodist. It was just a beautiful service, the commitment of my life. He is the love of my life, and I feel like my life just was beginning with Fred.
I often say that I'm the most fortunate man in the world to have had two wives that are just exceptional, just beyond belief. So I kept my blessings that I've been that fortunate.
Fred was about to retire. I had retired, so I went to Covenant House as a volunteer, and I got to know a lot of the street people. And so when we decided we were going to move to Greenbrier County, it was not my home that I was mourning leaving. It was that I was on the board of directors at Covenant House by then, and so I was thinking, oh my, I just can't leave these people.
She had always thought about being involved with a organization that might help people who are disadvantaged, people who are poor. And when we came to Greenbrier County, she recognized that there were some problems, some needs here. We were taking a Bible study at Lewisburg United Methodist Church when Patricia Jarvis was our pastor.
And when I took that class, boy, did it ever change my life. I just got to know Jesus up close and personal. And so when Patricia asked us the question, if money was no object, if there was nothing standing in your way, what would you do for Jesus? I said, well, I would love to work with the poor because I really think that's where the heart of Jesus is. That's where Jesus would be with the poor. So that's what I would like to do. And I would like to start something maybe sort of like Covenant House, where I've been working for Greenbrier County. But I wouldn't know where to start doing that.
And Patricia just had this simple answer. She said, you find one or two people who are like-minded, and you just get started. I would never have done anything like this. It was the furthest thing from my imagination, but Scarlett had this dream, and she had experienced it before. And she just kind of led me into it, and before long, I was just as much involved, I guess, as she in terms of wanting to do this.
So Fred and I did a lot of really interesting things. One time we decided that we were going to be like homeless people, and we were going to walk down the street in Lewisburg to see if we could find help. Boy, was that an adventure. We had a lot of doors slammed in our faces, and, you know, we had a lot of really negative things that happened, and we couldn't figure out how to get help. Because at that point, we really didn't know the organizations that help people. And so we thought, well, gee, you know, here we are, we're pretty intelligent people. If we're having trouble, what's happening to people who are the real homeless people, or the people who may need help and they don't know where to get help?
We started out Wellspring off our kitchen table. That's all I can tell you. Kitchen phone and kitchen table, and we started searching for ways to help people. And we had a meeting at Lewisburg United Methodist Church one time where we invited some of the community leaders who were interested in working with social needs. And we had over 30 people attend that meeting, which kind of astounded us. And out of that meeting, we really began to formulate the groundwork for forming Wellspring of Greenbrier.
Eventually, after traveling for about 2 years all over Greenbrier County and going into homes, meeting with a lot of people who do the kind of work that we do, we had a real feel for who was helping people in poverty in Greenbrier County. And we had a real feel of where all those pockets of poverty were then and are now.
We are waiting, Lord, waiting. We are waiting, Lord, fill the night till we find your love.
And as I said, we started off our kitchen table. We then moved into Lewisburg United Methodist Church in the small space that they had available, but they needed the space more for church needs down there. So we eventually found the location where we are now, and I bought a building in Rupert, West Virginia.
We had a meeting there right after we bought the building where Wellspring is located now. we had a group of people who came in that set chairs up over to the side away from our table where I had the Christ candle, and we were getting ready to conduct our meeting, and I invited them to come and sit at the table with us, and they would not sit with us. And then after our meeting started, about halfway through the meeting, it was the people who were there started protesting. And they started screaming that we were going to bring homeless people from all over the place into their town, that we were going to cause all kinds of havoc. One of our best supporters said, he just stood up and said, you know, I think enough is enough of this. They've purchased a building here. They are a nonprofit organization. This meeting was called to inform you. And so, you know, I think you all need to listen. At that point, I just invited people to come and look at the building where the Wellspring Center would be. We had not done any work on the building, but I wanted them to visualize how I thought the place would look and what it would be. And so many of the people came over and, you know, they came over and looked at the building and they were excited about it. Well, we were able to launch the Wellspring Center, and it's been a wonderful experience just to envision something, see it happen, have people help us make it happen, and to be able to realize a dream and be able to reach out to people that we need.
We had talked with Charlie Mundy, and Charlie had told us a little bit of the background of the area here, and he kind of recommended this as an area where he thought people would come.
Citizens of West Virginia, please accept my most sincere best wishes for the continued success of this invaluable initiative. With warmest regards, Joe Manchin III, Governor.
We dedicated our building to God, and every section of this building and every section of Wellspring was dedicated to God. I wanted it to be cheerful and a happy place for people to come to, and I wanted them to be able to walk in off the street, and we just wanted it to feel like home. I'm interested in town, and I'm here to exhibit.
And I kept thinking, well, what if nobody comes? You know, what if no one comes in for help? But it didn't take very long for people to discover who we were and what we were there for. We have a welcome station where people come in and sign in. We welcome them and ask them what kind of help they need. We have applications they fill out. Sometimes people need to do their laundry. Sometimes they need to take a shower. They may have children who need a play center that they can play in. We have a library where they can go and get books. They can check out books. And oftentimes we'll have a class going on in there.
We've grown to a point where we have a significant number of programs at Wellspring, and most of those have been the brainchildren of Scarlett. She's the one that thinks up most of these things. I try to help her implement them. I'm more the outside guy, and I do our summer building program and construction program with our work teams that we have coming in. And she handles most of the day-to-day meeting of the people that are calling in or coming in for either to get food as they have the need, or to present whatever needs that they happen to have, whether it's to pay a bill or some of them come in just because they need socialization. They just need to see somebody. We're blessed to have all of them coming in now.
We have about 30 different programs that we do throughout the year. But right now, one of the most important ones, and the one that we've been doing for about 2 years now, I believe, is called Bread and Soup Express, etc. Diana Godby, who is on our mission team, said she wanted to coordinate it. And so she has developed a list of cooks, of people who love to cook. And so usually every Tuesday morning we get the food, we package it at Wellspring, people come in and get the food. We do have a bakery that we buy from, and they deliver our bread on Tuesday. And this is a very, very successful program at Wellspring. Our oldest program that we started doing before we even had the building was called Transient Packs. We came up with a nutrition pack, a toiletry pack, and a first aid pack. So that is actually our first and oldest program, and we still have that. Those transient packs are sent to various places throughout Greenbrier County where there's a lot of traveling people. One of our other programs is the home improvement program, which Fred does. We came upon the name of Home Improvement because Fred and I just loved the program Home Improvement, which was a comedy show, and I even got him a shirt that said Home Improvement that said, "Real men don't need instructions."
We build ramps, and we do repair roofs, and we do steps and windows and insulation, and basically pretty simple jobs. Some of them get a little bit more technical than others. I love the ones where I have to design something, such as a ramp, when it has to turn a corner and you have to build a platform and turn it and figure out the angles and all that. And we get work teams from churches, particularly Clifton Presbyterian Church, from our own church, the Methodist churches around the area, more than I can say, from the Catholic community. Bethlehem Farms, which is a Catholic retreat center located not far from Penn Springs. We have kind of affiliated with them over the last several years. And they have teams that come in. Some of them are high school groups, some are junior colleges, but most of the ones that we have coming in, the largest number of them come from the universities. We have them coming in from Boston University, from Notre Dame, from Holy Cross, just everywhere. You just can't name all these schools that send their university students in, or who elect to come in to spend a retreat time, usually on their spring breaks. We always try to have them enjoy themselves and have some fun while we're doing the work, and that's part of it.
Hail
My expertise has come from a program which I borrowed from Covenant House, which is Adopt a Family. It is a huge program that we do at Christmas time. We have families that adopt families, and I coordinate all that. Plus, we have gotten help from some friends from the Wheeling area, Appalachian Outreach Incorporated, and they have people who work all year long getting us ready for Christmas. And they do shoebox Santas, toys and gifts, and that's a part of our Christmas that we do in Greenbrier County. Those gifts go out to all the senior citizen centers, all the nursing homes, all of the food pantries, and community centers. So we cover a lot of territory at Christmas. There are still people who don't really know what we do. And a lot of people who are supporters of ours, who maybe give monetarily or give in-kind goods, that kind of thing, there are people who still have not been there, who have not seen exactly the work of Wellspring. They may know the results of it, but they don't know exactly what we do. I think we're there representing Jesus. I'm not sure that everybody gets that. I hope that most people get that. I used to not wear a cross, but every day now when I go in, I wear a cross because I want people to know that we are the hands and feet of Jesus.
She's not the only one wearing the cross. I've got it on. It just happens to sneak under my shirt sometimes. But we do try to wear these at Wellspring, and we don't try. We do wear them at Wellspring because it shows that we are faith-based and we're serious about it.
Oftentimes when people come in and they're in trouble, I will invite them to the prayer room. And that's where we really get the real story. And so I offer a prayer for what their real needs are. And I let them know that there is hope in every situation and that God is there with them wherever they go.
All who dwell in dark sin, my hand will say.
I had no idea what faith was all about until we got involved with Wellspring. And you know, you hear about that old proverbial brick wall when things might go bad and you just slam against the wall and you just can't go any further. Well, there have been times when I thought we were going to hit that old brick wall.
We who are privileged to have running water, good water that we can drink, who have warm homes and beds to sleep in, I think we forget about those who are in need and who don't have those homes. Jesus said that the poor will always be with us, but, I think Jesus is with us. I think Jesus is with the poor.
God has a plan. And part of that plan is that he's helping Wellspring. He's not helping Scarlett, he's not helping me, but he's helping the people that are in need, the people that we consider to be our friends and our associates that we deal with. And they're wonderful people. They just happen to have needs that sometimes they can't handle on their own.
We try to help people emotionally and spiritually. And we feel really good about that part of it because that is what led us there in the first place was Jesus. And so we want people to know that Jesus is there.